Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. Today's episode is a bonus episode chatting all about a meta slasher movie that has its UK premiere at FrightFest in London on Thursday, the 27th of August. My name is Ben Errington, and today I'm joined by Big Baby director Spider One and star Krsy Fox. Hello, and welcome to you both.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hopefully we fall into the best category that you discuss in
Well,
that.
I've said this to Andy many a time. We should change the intro because I feel like it's a bit passive aggressive. It's almost,
Yeah.
it's a bit passive aggressive and it's putting pressure on people we're talking to. And I'm like, of course it falls into the best. I'm not even going to question that. Let's just briefly give our audience a synopsis so that they're aware of what the film is about. So, a nightmare involving a maniac killer in a baby mask inspires horror screenwriter Adam Lewis's new script. As more nightmares, visions, and real life terror begin to challenge Adam's sanity, he finds himself in a desperate struggle to control his writing, his reality, and who will be Big Baby's next victim.
That sounds amazing. I want to see that
This
movie.
sounds great. Who's come up with this idea?
I know. What genius came up with that? Oh, wait. Yeah, that
Oh,
is
wait.
no. Yeah.
Spider, you're so modest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess my first question was going to be where were the origins of the idea for this film? Because I guess as a slasher mask, it's always tough to come up with like the next big iconic slasher mask.
Sure.
Where did the idea for a big old baby face come
Yeah,
from?
it really dates back to a memory, probably going on 20 years now. There's this amazing horror convention called Monster Palooza that we have here
Yeah.
in the States and in California. And I remember going to a lot, we go to every year, but this is I went to this years and years ago, and it was the first time I'd ever laid eyes on those adult sized baby masks. And I just was like, that is the scariest thing I've ever seen. And so all these years later, I think that just stuck with me as being really creepy. So I thought, well, this make an absurd idea for a slasher character. And then in 2019, I made a movie called Allegoria, which is a little like
Mm.
anthology film. In one of the segments, there's a scene where these two girls are watching a horror movie called Big Baby, and it's sort of like a very silly D level version of that, where we intentionally made it like looks like it was made for like $5, which it kind of was. Um, and then that segment really resonated with people. Like they kept writing messages or reviews and commenting on the Big Baby part, that they love that part, and when are we getting the feature Big Baby movie, which I brushed off as being a terrible idea until it wasn't. And then I was like, maybe this isn't such a bad idea. So at that
So
point, just sort of started to figure out how to do it for real.
wow. So I'm already established in the Spider-One lore, Big Baby existed in the universe of your movies, and then you've brought
Yeah,
it to life like that.
if you go back and watch that segment, it's hilarious.
Yeah. I know exactly what mask you're talking about as well. They're like a particular mask where it looks like it's crying. Is that the one
Yeah.
where it's like kind of in tears?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Strangely, well, not strangely, but somehow you've made a mask more terrifying than that one. Chrissy, how were you convinced to come on board with a movie like this?
You just know. I mean, honestly, I've been wanting to make a big baby movie. And when we have a production company together, One Fox Productions, and so we make all the films together. I'm sort of the main producer on all the films, and so we always try to do something different for every movie, like play with different subgenres, but make it still feel like us and our stamp. So I've been wanting to do a slasher. That's something that like I personally love. Obviously, I got to be part of the Terrifier franchise, which was like a dream, and I
Of
had so much
course.
fun. And so when this came along, I was very excited because it's almost like The Shining meets a slasher movie. So there's just like a lot for me to sort of grab onto with the character like of Kate, because I also have been playing a lot of like very down and out characters or villains, and
Mm.
And this was like, oh, I'm like the heart of this movie, and there's like all these emotional stakes, and I was really excited to sort of just do something different. And so I mean, it was a no-brainer. I was so excited. I was just like constantly driving Spider crazy, being like, we need more blood. Can we cut off another limb? Can we do this? And,
I've only got so
and
many limbs.
I'd wear him down.
Easily worn down, Spider, were you, for cutting off more
Yeah, I
limbs?
think years of practice. She's yeah, easily
Years of
Yeah.
worn.
practice, yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, what a great iconic slasher as well. Initially, when I think I saw the poster, I was a bit like, is this an actual big baby? Is this like a Honey, I Blew Up the Kid scenario? Is it like a giant baby? Which I think
Well, I
would have
think
been
that,
equally.
when you come up with a design, it's really important. I think that, we all sometimes I think that people think like, oh, you just got to throw a mask on somebody and it's, that's enough. And I think that, you know, I I came up through, through art school. I dropped out of art school, but I always loved visual art, painting, drawing, and, Marvel comics, and really seeing what works. And, I've referenced this before. There's a reason why Spider-Man has lasted, all these
Mm.
years. It's just that the color choices, the graphic design, and Krsy mentioned Terrifier, and, Art the Clown. It's it looks like, pop art or something, the way it's designed. And I think that that's really, really important. And when it was time to design Big Baby, it was important to make it instantly recognizable, something you could replicate for Halloween, and something that made sense with the story. It wasn't just sort of random. When you see
Mm.
the movie, you will see the reason why he chooses a baby mask, and the reason why he takes on this persona as Big Baby. And so I think all those parts are important to
Mm.
hopefully we're successful in coming up with something that will resonate with people.
Yeah, and I mean like the meta stuff is really good, and I guess like the meta stuff's more New Nightmare than it is Scream, isn't it? It's kind of like this world. I guess there's a lot of discussions about like the creative process as well.
Yeah.
How much did both of you see in yourselves in these characters, I guess, with their creative processes and I guess struggles?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was definitely a magnified version of myself. It's like I certainly don't, you know, freak out like Adam, and and certainly haven't started, losing my mind over, well, maybe a little bit, but
Just a
but
tad.
but there are elements of, certain discussions they have in the movie that are discussions we've had or at the dinner table. There's certain, struggle that comes into play, wrestling with criticism, or creative block, or all this kind of stuff. And that is certainly comes from our real lives. But it's a movie, so you want to make it, like
Mm.
I've said, it would be no fun to watch a well-adjusted writer who isn't bothered by criticism. What kind of movie is that? We need a guy who's like, coming apart at the seams to, that's what makes it fun to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
listening to reviews of your own movie, never. Sorry, Chrissy, carry on.
No, I mean, I was gonna say, like, I feel like Spider definitely was sort of the one who taught me about like all of these out, like, because he would listen to everything and read everything with the movies. Like, honestly, like for a long time, I didn't even like consider to do that. And then he'd be like, "Oh, did you see this?" And he's like, kind of like driven me down like the slippery slope where I was like, I was better off just like
Ignorance is
completely.
bliss.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. So.
Yeah, but I like a lot of the stuff it talks about with, again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but in terms of like the way that criticism, especially of films, is so easy for someone to just put out like an uninformed kind of explanation on what they think a film's about. I guess there's a good takedown of podcast bros in this film as well. Not that I have any connection to any podcast bros in
No.
any way.
Yeah,
No,
no,
I
it was
mean
just that,
between
look, a lot has been made about that part of the movie, and there. But for me, it's always been that element of the movie, that sort of podcast bro thing was really just a very small part of the movie, but it has taken on a life of its own, obviously, because either people are seeing themselves in that, or wanting to distance themselves from that. Like, that's not me. But it is a very interesting thing to look at. I've talked about this before, that film criticism and the power of the success or failure of a movie, that power dynamic has shifted much more. I mean, the audience has always voted with their wallet, whether they go see a movie or not.
Mm.
But generally, film criticism landed on a handful of, you know, elite guy, the New York Times, or, Siskel and
Roger
Ebert.
Ebert. Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
there were a couple of really now that power is shifted to anyone with a camera and a voice. And even with the smallest independent movie, you're going to get thousands of voices coming at you.
Mm.
And some of those voices are incredibly thoughtful, and some of them are not. And so, I just thought, again, it's a movie, so it's much more interesting to look at the guys that aren't, than somebody giving a really thoughtful review of his movie, giving the positives and the negatives. And that's not fun. It's more fun to show the guys that are just heartless and have no respect or consideration that there are human beings
Yeah.
behind the work.
And
So yeah, it's just an interesting thing to look at. I think people think that I'm gunning for that, but it's not that at all. I just thought it was
yeah, I
it
mean,
was
it's fun.
fascinating.
The point you make, obviously, years ago, it would be a weekly TV show or a newspaper that you'd see, and it'd be like a select few. And now, yeah, it literally is everybody with a camera who's got something to say. But I think some podcast bros are represented just fine in this film. I think I'm
Yeah.
like, I know those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know them absolutely. How was the casting for the film, and especially like main character as well? How was that process?
Yeah, I mean that was the hardest part because there was a lot of people like some of the other casts that were like, oh, we had friends or we had people in mind that we wanted for some of the characters, but the Adam character was so important because on the page he could come off incredibly unlikable. You could wonder why maybe Kate would stay with him, and so we really needed to find an actor that had this like essence of like goodness and kindness, and he's sort of funny, and he still has this underlying, we saw a lot of tapes where people approach this like very angry right from the start. And so when Brandon was brought up to us, we had watched Dead to Me pretty recently, and
Mm.
we loved him on that show, and we're like, that's like exactly the vibe. He's just like an adorable human in general, and he's like that in real life, and just we loved him immediately. And he's such a good actor, and he's such an emotional actor that he's like can be very vulnerable. And so I
Mm.
feel like when he came up, it was like that was all we could think about, or like it's him, you know. And he was sort of the wild card because he was the one of the few people that we had never worked with before. So
Oh wow,
doing
okay.
yeah, so doing like a film like this where our shoot was very short, we had to be very, it's just you just don't know. He could come to set and have like a crazy attitude but no, he was like setting up the crafty tent and just like loved being there and just like in it with us, and he's just the best. So we're so lucky that it was him, and it made my job very easy just connecting with him and building the relationship between Kate and Adam, and so
Mm.
yeah, we're so grateful.
A great performance, a really complex character as well, and I guess like kind of Stephen King-esque, the way that Stephen King always writes about writers. I kind of
Yeah.
felt that kind of like coming through as well. I mean, I don't, yeah. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I've definitely
Fright.
heard references to like the dark half and other things people have
Yeah,
known. But
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that
yeah.
that's Stephen King, and even more so, I reference it as sort of like the Twilight Zone way of telling a story. It's always resonated with me, and just sort of like, you know, taking some real life grounded things and representing them in a really fantastical way, or using monsters, or you know whatever, to take a very grounded situation, and have fun with it. So that sort of Stephen King Twilight Zone night gallery
Yeah,
storytelling has always been one of my favorite ways to tell stories.
absolutely. And it definitely shines through. Um, and then a big old killer, big baby mask thrown in there for
Even
fun as
better.
well. Oh, yeah. So Fright Fest coming up end of August.
Mhm.
It's the UK premiere, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we looking
Yes.
forward to that? What do we expect from Fright Fest?
I mean, I can just say that we obviously been doing screenings and we did a handful of festivals over
Mm,
here and getting to sit in an audience. And out of all of our films, this is just such a theater audience movie.
mm,
And also, film festival audiences are so fun. Like they're cheering, they're laughing, they're just in it. So I think just go into it like having fun and just like
mm,
enjoying the experience of watching it with a room full of people. We put so much blood, sweat, and tears, not just us, but everyone who worked on that movie. And I think that if you love horror movies and you love indie horror movies, this one is going to be a blast to watch with like a big audience.
mm.
I've heard the audience is sick there too, so that's
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
Fright
so bummed
Festival.
we're
Yeah.
not going to be there. We really,
Oh, okay.
we wanted to go so bad. It just we've been sort of swamped with a million other things, but
Mm,
we have friends, filmmaker friends that have had films there, and they're just like, "Oh my god, it's so fun! It's the greatest!" So we're just honored to be a part of it, and we just hope that everybody has a blast. And
mm.
and we're working on having a couple people from the film be there. So we just
Cool.
aren't
Okay.
100%, yeah.
Sure,
But
sure.
yeah.
Well, we're gonna be there. We're gonna be there in person. So we'll speak to some audience members. We'll get a good an instant reaction for Big Baby opening night as well, and like the late night film on opening night as well, which is
Yeah.
super
That,
fun, right?
that's a good slot. Yeah, I imagine everybody's drunk by then, so it'll be good.
Everybody's drunk by then. As long as nobody wears a Big Baby mask and sits directly behind me, I'm
No
absolutely fine with
promises.
it. Exactly. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to join me and speak about Big Baby. Our Fright Fest episode goes live early September, so we will be covering this film and, of course, everything else that's screening at the festival. Yeah, congratulations again on the film. Thanks for taking the time, and see you both very, very soon.
You bet.
So
Thank you so
much.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.